Top 10 greatest albums of all time. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, number 10.
Number 9 is Blood on the Track by Bob Dylan.
Number 8, Purple Rain, Prince.
7, Rumors, Fleetwood Mac.
6, Nevermind, Nirvana.
Number 5 is Abbey Road from the Beatles.
4, Songs in the Key of Life, Stevie Wonder.
3 is Blue from Joni Mitchell.
2, Pet Sounds, Beach Boys.
Number 1, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye.
What is going on? Who made this list?
Top 10 list, hit or miss. I don't know, so I've got to listen to Earworm, stuck in my mind. Can't get it out this time.
Oh, we'll tell you.
Ivansa ahead.
Welcome to Earworm, episode 5, where today we're talking about lists, ranks, charts, all of the things that you look at in magazines and go, how did they do that?
Yeah, exactly. What's the psychology behind us ranking bands in this manner? Absurdly so.
Right. And I think there's a lot of good information out there about it. The first thing that I think about is, the best pizza in the world. There's every city in this country that you go to and you see a pizzeria, best pizza in town, best number 1 pizza in the region. Now there are lots of different Dave Portnoy's out there, everybody doing their thing, doing pizza rankings, but there is always the self-reviewed pizza joint that likes to put their stats out there.
Exactly. Just like there's a restaurant that's down the road from where we live and it's Asian and it says number 1 Chinese.
It's the real name. It's called number 1 Chinese.
I mean, the balls is pretty impressive.
I've never seen number 2.
I ate there once, and that was all it took for me to never go back.
Yeah.
know?
It's on the top 500 for Brian, but it's deep. Yeah. Kind of like First Baptist Church, though. And, you have all these different associated numbers to ranking churches and food and all that kind of stuff. So.
That's right. Yeah, you always see, Premier Club. You never see, Penultimate Club. Or something, it's like, we're number 2, we're good. Which is weird because statistically, if you think about Peter Drucker, who wrote The Executive in Action, one of the great think minds of managerial, he was a managerial guru, right, in the 50s and 60s. But he was the one who kind of predicted that we were going to be moving from a goods-based economy to an information-based economy. And he basically said that once we transition into information-based economy, that there's no such thing as wealth. All it's doing is just shifting. We're not generating anything new.
Huh.
But it was fascinating because his whole point in executive action was this, and this is not a divergence, but basically what this meant is that who comes in second often does better in metrics and performance-based because why? They didn't have to sink as much cost in R&D as number 1 did.
Right, so their cost structure changes significantly.
Now, there's a certain amount of that goes along in the music business, but what we're really differentiating, or trying to do at least, between is commerce and the humanities.
Right.
Art and music.
Yeah, we were talking about quantitative versus qualitative.
Yeah, money and music. Yeah. That kind of thing. And I got to say, I have nothing against Marvin Gaye, by the way.
No!
That number 1, I mean, hey, I love that album.
Yeah.
I love it. And I know Bob Olson, who engineered that album, and they almost didn't put it out. The only reason that single got put out is because Berry Gordy was busy at Motown in L.A., and he recorded that in Detroit.
Wow.
Yeah, because Berry Gordy was like, we're not doing social – we make black music for white people, and let's keep it at that. And he knew exactly how profitable it was, but he was in L.A. doing Motown L.A., and Marvin was up for another – record, and he came in and did What's Going On.
Yeah, and I think that song charted quite well.
Oh my God, yeah. Can you imagine waking up to that if you're Berry Gordy going, what the?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to talk about charts and rankings, and I know we're going to get into a lot of the psychology of it today, and we're going to talk about some of the lists that have been out there. But I think obviously we like to start with a little bit of a story about where it all came from. So early 19-teens, Billboard was releasing charts for jazz and big band and musicians to be able to come by. Yep. And we had talked in previous episodes that 100 years ago, there was much more of people playing instruments at home, and there was a lot more of musicianship within the household than there is now. Mm-hmm. And the commonality there is the charts that people would go by was how they understood how music was performing.
Yeah.
And they would have a list of all the charts and how well they sold, and all of a sudden it's the Billboard charts. So it only took a few years before music was getting put on the jukebox. It was getting wax pressed and being sold at record stores.
Mm-hmm.
And then by 1940, they had created this Billboard chart of all of the rankings of music sales from all of those different things. So they get an amalgam of all of the different ways that music is paid for and consumed, put it together and create their list there.
Yeah.
Now there was no editorial part there. This is why it's the charts, and this is why people still use it today. 1958, the Hot 40, then you started getting top 40 music based off of the Billboard charts.
And then creations of new charts, right, where they redefine certain things, like the race charts. The race records were now redefined as R&B.
Bluegrass is now rolled into country.
Exactly.
And, hopefully eventually, as we talked about on episode 1, maybe there's an AI chart eventually.
It's coming. I
feel like it's got to.
It's got to, because there's going to be too much malpractice.
Yeah. Go back to episode 1 if you haven't listened to it, because it's a really interesting discussion.
Yeah, we go way deep.
And we're going to do a follow-up to that one, too, because even just last night at the event that we went to, is like we're talking more and more about AI and the economy of effort.
Yeah.
Where it's like humanity understands effort and sees it, and that's something that can be identified, and you can't see the effort if a computer's just making the music. But that's a whole other conversation that I thought was totally fascinating.
I totally agree. I think every 6 months we're going to have to do a follow-up.
Yeah.
Because it's going to double in power. Yeah. And we'll be talking about all kinds of crazy things. But how does one go about trying to say Jimmy Page is the greatest guitar player of all time? Or who is the greatest band of all time? And I'll be like that Triumph the Dog answer, which is no. The correct answer is not the Beatles, but who gives a shit?
Yeah, right. Well, and truly, like, if you don't trust where the information is coming from, anybody can say it's the greatest band in the world. Yeah. I think Pink Floyd's the greatest band in the world, but there's a lot of people that would disagree with me.
Yeah, but a lot of people would agree with you too.
Sure.
Yeah. So you didn't pick a reference. It's not like you said, I think the Butthole Surfers are the greatest band in the world.
That's a controversial.
Right.
That's an unpopular opinion, as I would say.
Right. And by the way, that album, Live PCP Pep, for those of you who might be Butthole Surfer fans, probably one of the worst records I've ever heard in my life.
It's a live record?
It's a live record, and it's awful.
I've heard some pretty awful live recordings from great bands.
Right. Yeah. So I think that those are fun lists. Worst albums of all time.
Worst live performance album of all time. That could be a really great deep dive. But the worst albums of all time, I don't even know where to start. I think of Whoomp, There It Is, and the Macarena. Like, that's where my bottom is.
I think of Michael Jackson's Bad, even though it sold 33 million copies.
So many copies.
I thought it was aptly titled.
Bad.
Yeah. I was like, right, they nailed it.
So Bad was the single. What else was on? I don't even know.
Wasn't The Way You Make Me Feel? Wasn't that on there?
Oh, it could be.
Yeah, it was on Bad.
Okay.
Yeah. The girl in the video, beautiful.
That was the best part.
That was the best part. Yeah. Just beautiful, long, luscious hair, curly. Oh, she was so pretty.
So why is it that we tend to want to gravitate towards somebody's opinion of the greatest, or a list, or a ranking? Like, what is it about human nature that sizes us puts us into this corner to say, I need somebody to tell me?
Please explain. I think we have the way our brains are wired is we have this thing, and there's a branch of psychology that's called the cognitive load theory. And basically what it is a shorthand way of saying it. It's very diverse, but for an idiot musician like myself, this is the way I interpret it. I'm using it. I'm using the very theory against itself, which is I'm taking this cognitive load theory and going, okay, how can I reduce a very complex thing into something very easy that I can do in rows and in ranks that way, So by doing that, I'm able to assign a value judgment on it and make order out of seemingly chaos.
Right. So just dumbing it down to the lowest denominator, really.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say row as the designation, because the etymology of rank is the French translation of row.
That's right.
So very cool. So our simian brains just can't even comprehend some of these larger concepts, right? So to say these are all of the different parameters that we use to judge this record, we really just need somebody to take those things for us.
Yeah.
Because of our brains, it's too much for a lot of people, so they just distill it down to just the very, very basic.
Yeah.
So then they can rank it and say, these are our 10.
Yeah. And so then we go, well, what's your metrics? What's your basis? How do you do it? And there's usually two you can just like totally cleave this whole puzzle into two right there by saying it's either going to be off objective metrics, aka albums sold, streams per, quarter, whatever.
Jukebox rotations.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Todd Stores. Yeah. Was doing that. Yeah. So yeah, that, or it's cultural. It's a je ne sais quoi. It's something that's harder to pin down, but it's one that most people will go, yeah, that's a very important album. You should know it. And then they start trying to split hairs, going, well, why is Dark Side of the Moon worth more in this poll than The Wall is?
Yeah. Do they have like cultural relevance?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The climate that it's released to.
Right.
How many instruments are played on it?
Yeah.
How much money did they spend to make it?
How old is the album, and how old are the people making these lists?
Sure. yeah, right.
Right? Because
that does make a big difference.
Oh shit! My 18-year-old's going to have a wacky different interpretation of the 5 greatest albums.
The soundtrack to Red Dead Redemption, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Totally, man. He's going to be like Playboy Cardi, man, number 1, And I'll be like, okay. So how do we make sense of it, and what stood the test over time? So there's a huge discrepancy. So what we did earlier is we sort of looked at 2 basic lists. We looked at the Rolling Stone list of the 500 albums, greatest albums of all time.
Yep.
Right. And we read the top 10 at the beginning of the show. And then there's a whole other one, which is sort of based off of sales of albums, period.
And you would be interested to see how varying, I was very interested to see how varying it was.
Yeah.
Where you have albums that are in the top 100 but they're in the top 10. Let's say they're in the top 10 of record sales for the decade. Mm-hmm. They're not even on the best record list.
Right.
But they sold a lot of records.
Yeah.
But the records weren't good.
Yeah.
Like Michael Jackson's Bad was a great example. We talked about that one already.
Yeah.
30 million records.
Yeah.
Not even on the top 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In the Rolling Stone list.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So let's look about that, because what we have is we have this issue of social proof. In other words, like an authority bias. So social proof and authority bias would be like Rolling Stone, who's known for making it, or J.D. Powers and Associates, or what's the one for restaurants?
Oh, like the Michelin stars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those types of goes where they, you get a 5-star review, and then all of a sudden, did they go that high? 5 stars? I don't know.
Well, it's by star. If you get 1 Michelin star, it's exceptional.
Okay.
So even getting 1 Michelin star.
What if you get like a point of a star?
They have Bib Gourmand, which is an award that's given to people that not quite make the Michelin star, but it's more of a casual setting.
Kind of more of a like polite pat on the back.
Yeah, you're not getting a sandwich shop is not going to get a Michelin star typically.
What?
That would be more of an award that they would give to say, hey, you should go there.
Right.
And Michelin's an interesting one because that evolved out of literal tire sales.
Yeah.
It's literally the same company. It's the Michelin Man.
Yeah.
And it was about their map that they would make for people to go around the country. And then they would put stars to the restaurants that people should stop at. So
what kind of crazy shit is that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what a genius marketing plan. And people bought in and subscribed to it. But what music were they listening to?
Yeah, that's the question. What were they cranking?
That's right. What was on your jam list, man? Yeah. Okay, so when we look at the discrepancy of it, I mean, can we evaluate in an objective way what is the best of anything?
No.
Is it possible? I don't think so either. Unless we're just looking at something that is inherently metric-based, like units sold.
Right, and that's a different chart.
It's a way different chart.
That's most records sold.
Yeah. I mean, like movies, I wouldn't necessarily consider Titanic in my any list for me. I loathe that movie. However,
what did James Cameron do to you?
He did nothing to me. I dig James Cameron. Yeah. But Titanic, I don't know. I'm so over Titanic. The fucking ship sank.
There's a lot going on with that still.
Dude, just let it. I mean, the very fact that whatever that recent.
The deep water or the probe that was
like people are still trying to dig up the ghosts of Titanic. It's at the bottom of the fucking ocean. Just let it stay there.
That's right.
Like, I mean, I don't know. I have no opinion on the matter. But,
obviously.
I don't know.
You have a rough museum visit or something?
Right? Oh, my Lord. But anyway, so yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't put that on my list. And there are other people that would go, absolutely. And the amount of money spent Remember how grossly over budget it was?
Oh, yeah.
But then it recouped it all against all odds.
With 3 major releases,
Holy
I think,
Christ.
like over the year.
Yeah. So it's
and that was also a time when people would go to the theaters. It was one of the last big movies that came out that people were actually going to the theater to see. So there was a lot of ticket stubs,
Yep.
So we got to see kind of the last gasp, but then it was like the biggest DVD, the biggest VHS for years. It was crazy.
So long.
And people would argue it is the best movie ever made.
Oh my Lord.
It's not your favorite movie.
No, I can't even be in the room with those folks. I don't think. Because there's so many other great films. Anyway, but yeah. But if we're just looking at box office revenue, I'm sure James Cameron is going to occupy a majority of the top 10. He's like the Beatles for movies.
With Terminator and Avatar and Aliens. And there's just so much.
And he's amazing.
Yeah.
And no disrespect in any way. I just hate the subject matter of Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Avatar
There's no
fan.
mystery. There's no mystery. Like, will they survive?
Yeah. You already know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so it's like
it's hard to the best of anything, the greatest of all time, the best of anything is just an impossible task. Because nobody's going to have the congruence that's necessary to be able to think that way. Maybe pluribus happens and we all have a hive mind and we all land on the same belief that these things mean the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But from person to person, it's different. You have a favorite band. I have a favorite. They're not the same band.
That's right.
We have our greatest 10. I guarantee you my top 10 albums are not the same as yours.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think you're right.
Yeah.
And you know what though? That's what I love about it, because this kind of gets back into that idea of social proof and authority, is that when you have a body of some sort, whether it's the RIAA or whether it's the USDA or whether it's, whatever, the American Dental Association.
The FCC.
The FCC. You know what I mean? We love USCC.
We love you.
Yeah. But like, if you're into that whole thing and then they come out with a list of approved items or a ranking of like, this is the best and this is the worst, it does influence your belief system, not just your pocketbook. And you know what I mean? Because you have to be influenced upstairs first before you're going to reach into your hip pocket to pull out some plastic or some cash.
That's exactly right. And we mentioned Michelin stars. I want to eat at Michelin star restaurants. I want to try all of them.
Right.
Because that's the standard. That is the gold standard. And there's a difference between the gold standard, right, and everybody else.
Yeah.
So the authority bias, you're right. People do look to Rolling Stone, probably not as much as they used to, but look to Rolling Stone to tell them where they should try and spend their money. And when it comes down to like the consumption of it all, right?
Yeah.
These lists influence commerce.
Yeah.
So when you have a good authority, they can give them their opinion, and if your values align with that publication, you might align with the things that they're saying. But there's a lot of times where I look at Rolling Stone's list and I'm going, I don't like any of it. Right? Not that I don't love all of those records are great.
Yeah.
But are there better? Yeah. To me, yes.
Okay, so let's explain. You made a really funny term when we were discussing this. You were talking about the Freddy Krueger effect.
Yeah, what's the Freddy Krueger effect?
What is that? Tell everybody what that is.
So the Dunning-Kruger effect is when you have somebody that doesn't really know much about anything, shouts the loudest about what they're the authority on it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the less someone knows, the louder they get, or the more they're opinionated.
They're overconfident.
Right?
Yeah.
And you called it the troll effect, which I thought was really funny because the way that the curve is shaped is so you have someone that knows a little bit is way more dangerous than somebody that knows nothing.
Yeah.
Because the person that knows nothing has no opinion.
Right.
But then you try to talk to somebody that actually knows what they're talking about, and they just look at them like they're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the troll effect's very real, y'all, because I remember when we had a friend of mine, Adam Fleur, and I basically sold an amp for one of his friends, and it was a Dumble. It was an overdrive special.
Nice amp.
Right? And so I called Premier Guitar. I was like, hey, we've got this overdrive special. It's a very rare amp for those of you who don't know. They're upwards of $750,000 now. Yeah. But by the time we sold it, Dumble was alive, but now they're even more. I want
a quick history lesson on Dumble, though. I mean, Stevie Ray was the first that was the most popular player, right?
He was yes, outside the LA studio scene, because you certainly had Carlton, and you had Rittenauer, and you had a lot of the A-list guys, of which this particular amp that we were selling was out of that pedigree.
Okay, cool.
This amp was recorded on the majority of Mike Post's theme songs. So the A-Team, Simon and Simon, Hill Street Blues. It was also in the sessions for Weird Science, the movie, and a lot of James Cameron's movies. Yeah. So amp was very well documented and recorded.
And as we talked about recently, documented amps and amps that have owned or gear that have owned, there is such a pad between just it being a good example of it.
That's right.
Right.
We'll have to circle back to the
We
Gilmour.
will next week.
Well, yeah. So when we sold it to a Russian oligarch, literally. He wired in. We sold it for $100,000, and he wired it in cash, and we literally shipped it to Moscow.
Was it rubles?
I don't know how they did the conversion. I do not know these things. I do not ask.
I don't ask questions.
I don't either. Yeah. But I was like, hey, here's your money. And we just did it bros. We didn't do a commission or anything else. For those of you who might think, what did you make on it, Bryan? We made zero because we love our friend who I won't mention. But anyway, so we sold the amp. And Premier Guitar came out, and we played the amp a little bit. What we didn't have is the Dumble effects loop. So the Dumbleator is what it's called. It's a tube buffered effects loop. And if you don't have that amp does not sound like you think it does.
Are those later examples of his amplifiers?
No.
Or earlier examples?
They had it. He had it all the way through.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those things like Robin Ford still has his Dumbleator. And when you listen to his amp without the Dumbleator, you're like, it doesn't sound good. And it didn't. It sounded like a bad twin to me. So we were playing it, and I couldn't get the tone that I knew a Dumble could give because we didn't have the magic thing that nobody thinks about. It was just a head. The troll factor came out. These guys fucking suck. They can't play anything. Man, my crate amp sounds better than that amp. It got brutal. But that's the part of your Freddy Krueger, the Dunning. What is it again?
The Dunning-Kruger.
The Dunning-Kruger.
But and it's funny because those trolls had never played one before.
They've
never been able to play one before.
Never.
Nobody gets it's rare.
It's very rare.
I've been very fortunate enough to be able to play through a few different ones, but but you're right. It's a crazy thing. So that's when you start looking at publications that are putting out these greatest hits, these greatest lists, this is the greatest of all time. Yeah. And they have no history or they have no common opinions with you to be able to actually draw you in to doing these. And they're shouting loud, they're taking big swings,
So, but then so it is like that. The Dunning-Kruger effect is really, really cool because when you do start doing anything for the first time and you get reasonably proficient at it and you have a first taste of success, you are wildly overconfident until you start to go down for a little bit. And then you realize, oh shit, that was kind of beginner's luck. Now I got to really do some work before you work your way up to being an expert. And the expert has the earned confidence.
Right.
Right. They're not trying to prove anything to anybody. Right. And I think that's the beauty of it all. So, that's a big part of these lists. It's like, where are we on this curve when this list was made? Not only by the culture at the time, but also the people that were putting the list together. Where were they on that journey? Because they were all probably at different points on the Dunning-Kruger curve.
Absolutely.
And,
also looking at charting and looking at that concept is music is consumed differently now.
Yeah.
So in the last 5 years, it's totally changed, and it's totally changed the industry on how you want to produce music and how you want to put it out. So there's not a lot of artists putting out full albums at a time anymore.
Right.
It's one song here, one song there, one song here, and then they'll put the 3 songs on an EP, but it's already been out. It's not anything new. They just title it something else.
Yeah.
So you have ways to manipulate the charts because you've had these songs out, but then you can call it an album later, right? It gets on. So it's kind of an interesting thing to see because the top 100 records, the top 500 records, there's a lot of music coming out now that's never going to be on those lists.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's think about this. Would you pay $16.5 million for David Gilmour's Black Strat?
No.
Why not?
Because 16.5 million. Well, it's 14.5, I think.
Oh, was it 14.5?
Regardless,
Okay.
it's an absurd amount of money for a guitar. It's the most ever paid.
Okay.
Most ever paid for a guitar.
Right.
Ursay bought it in 2019 for $4. We sold it for 14.5 after he passed recently, which is
his estate. Yeah.
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 And he also sold a lot of guitars.
Yeah.
A lot of cool guitars
Oh,
that he
yeah.
had been hoarding
Amazing.
for a bit.
Yeah.
But right, I would not pay $14.5 million for a Strat unless I had $1 billion and I wanted David Gilmour Strat because I do love David.
Okay, so this is kind of what I think we're getting to,
Okay.
and that is this, that there's a difference between perceived values, objective values, and then the experienced values.
Perceived, objective, and experienced value.
Right? Because perception is, this is David Gilmour's Strat. Huge worth.
Yeah.
Right? Huge value. But the objective value is, what will it bring in the marketplace? Not knowing what the gavel price would eventually be. So if it's $14.5 million, on that same day, they sold Jerry Garcia's Tiger guitar, the one that he played forever and ever, that, you know, everyone knows. If you're a Grateful Dead fan, you know what the Tiger guitar is.
It's hugely iconic guitar.
And
11.5.
11.5 for that.
So $3 million difference.
$3 million difference. Okay, so now if we compare the two, is on the experience value quotient, is the Tiger guitar playing $3 million less than what David's Strat would have been, what Gilmour's Strat would have been?
You know, I think an even more extreme version of the question is Prince's Cloud guitar sold on the same auction
Yeah.
for $600,000.
There you go.
That's, to me, that's almost as iconic as Tiger. You know, it's
Well, I know why that one sold for so much less, honestly.
why is that?
Because there's no case.
There's no case with it. You gotta have the original case.
It doesn't fit in the overhead.
That's funny. And I mean, a case for that one's a weird one to come by.
Oh
Anyway.
my Lord, can you imagine?
Yeah.
It'd be like hauling around a 4x8, you know, plank at Home Depot of plywood. I mean, it's just like crazy.
So let's talk about objective.
Yeah. So the objective part would be something that you're gonna be able to go, okay, what's the measurable value of this, right? That no one can dispute.
Is it gonna? But that's not the. Is it gonna make my rig sound better though?
No.
Where does that fall? Is that perceived value?
Yeah, that's perceived value.
Yeah.
That's you going, if I buy Eric Johnson's Stratocaster and his whole signal chain, his vintage Marshalls, and you know the whole,
Then I'm going to sound.
I'm
just
going to
like
sound
Eric
like, and we
Jones.
right, and we all know, and anybody that's got a guitar and ever had a chance to play their hero's signal chain or actually play their hero's guitar, you will not sound like them.
I promise.
That is a guarantee. Like, that is objective.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will not sound like them. So, but then the experience of having the same gear that your heroes have, like, oh, I've got my, you know, Strat that's or whatever. I've got the, you know, the 59 Les Paul. Okay, that's great. But is the 59 Les Paul worth $2 million, you know, or more, depending upon the condition? But like, you know, is it worth $2 million more than a $6,000 Murphy Lab aged, 59 Les Paul?
Well, I think it has to do with what's the precise job that it's going to be used for. It's like if there is a use case that is like, it has to be that guitar from that year with these strings and this cable and this amp, has to be that. Then it's number one. It's invaluable.
I think so that's the idea. So the objective part starts to fall away because there's a great guitar player here in Nashville, Jack Pearson. And a lot of guitar players, including myself, are big fans of Jack. He makes everything sound like God. I mean, he's got great hands, and he's a great singer. He's just a very humble human being. He's one of those hometown heroes that never made it big, even though he's played with the Allman Brothers and Government Mule and a lot of other things. He's just such a fabulous musician. You know what his number one guitar is that you'll see him play?
Tell me it's a Squire.
It is.
No
it
way.
is. Yes, it is a purple Squire Stratocaster.
Wow, that was a good guess.
And he makes it sound like Jesus just is sitting on stage, just, working miracles.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So to me, that's the whole point. It's like, okay, well, if you want to put $14.5 million into buying that, now chances are the guy who bought it is going to be some private collector, that's going to be, might have been the same guy that we sold that amp to. I don't know.
We may never see that guitar again.
That's what, right. They'll squirrel it away. It'll never get played except on, a rare occasion. And somebody goes, ooh, that's cool. Or you bring somebody famous over and go, hey, I got something for you to check out.
Yeah.
It's a bragging right. It's a dick swing.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, man. Like, but now we're musicians.
Should it be in a museum is the question.
Right. Yeah. If we were, if we were motorheads, we'd want to see the cars driven and not locked in an auto museum and never on a trickler so the battery stays charged.
Yeah.
It's like,
and I'll tell you, I've been in the MI industry a long time. I found that the people at the bottom of the Dunning-Kruger effect are the ones spending the most money on guitars.
Yeah. So you're saying, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is like entry-level players that just have the dream of owning cool guitars are the ones that buy the most expensive guitars.
Yeah.
There's players that are pros that I'm not seeing go in and buy, flashy custom shop guitars and vintage guitars. Well, sometimes vintage guitars, but it's typically on
it's player grade. It's within a player grade radius of a vintage guitar. I mean, that's how I buy them.
Sure.
I'm not interested in an heirloom quality vintage guitar because I'm going to play it.
Right. I want it to be played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Use it.
Yeah.
But that's the idea. So now we have perceived value, and then we have the experience of the value of where we place the value, right? The experience of how well did the guitar play, or how did this record make you feel better? I mean, the thing that was so strange on this Billboard, on the Rolling Stone chart, was that Sgt. Pepper wasn't on the list.
Yeah, was it like 24 or something like
right.
that? Right.
Yeah. Way
later.
Not on the top 10.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but Abbey Road was.
Yeah.
Right. That was in the top 10.
Yeah. And then Revolver was like 11 or something like that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then Revolver. I mean, those are generally speaking, and here's where we get to maybe some sense of false objective perception, that those three records are generally, most people will say, the best Beatles albums.
Right.
On a general level.
My favorite one's One.
The red one?
Yeah, the red one. From the 90s, late 90s, and they remastered everything. Got a lot of good songs on that one.
There's a lot of good songs on that one.
I think all of the songs that are good on those three records are on that one. Or all the songs that we love.
Yep. But that's so okay. So then how do we figure out why did Abbey Road rank higher than Revolver or Sgt. Pepper?
I can't explain it because there is no qualifier to say this is how we scored it and why we scored it the way that we did. And back on experience can be a collective thing in a lot of ways, but it's also a very intimate individual thing. So it's even more of a disparity of how you score something like that.
Yeah.
Because you have shared experiences, but you also have, very personal experiences that you grade things on,
I think I totally couldn't agree more. And that's where, what a kind of a disservice, what kind of academic malpractice is it for someone like a Rolling Stone to just go, well, this is it. And then we don't have the methodology of why they did it. Now, to be fair, they did disclose that they did this as a survey that they gave out to 300 industry experts, and they were diversified. So it wasn't like, a particular slant for, middle-aged white dudes or whatever to go in and make these value judgments, right? So I get
but
that.
I still think it's too small to say the greatest. It's too small of a sample size, even 300. I mean, Family Feud is they asked 100 people, and it's not even that great of a cross-section. You get 300 people to give them opinions, and it's still editorial to me, you know?
Yeah. I have problems with all ranking words like ultimate.
Yes.
Yes. What does that even mean? Yeah, those types of, that language is one of the things that I think generates the whole reason why we're even having this discussion today.
Yeah, just finite language. Yeah. Where it's like, this is the best. End of story, period. Case closed. Yep. No more talking.
Yeah. And it has to be so narrowly defined in order for that to be true. Like, this is the greatest selling album of all time.
That's easy.
Right.
Stats. It's just truth.
That's it.
Right.
But you want to go full baseball mode and figure out who the best pitcher is over the entire, you know what I mean? It's that.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Yeah. So
you can say who's got the most home runs.
Yes. Yeah.
You can say who's got the best ERA or the most strikeouts.
Yep.
That's an easy thing to do. But to say Babe Ruth, the best baseball player to ever live.
Right.
It's a
It's a
fallacy. You know?
Right, because things change. Everything's always in motion.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like he was the best player.
Many times he's been ranked as.
He has been ranked
I can
as.
even hang with that.
Yeah.
But to say it is in an authoritative way, I don't know, man. So now you're sort of like Noam Chomsky, who's one of the great, very, very left wing, but as a linguist, he made some incredible contributions to the field. But in his early days, he wrote a book called Manufacturing Consent, The Manufacture of Consent. And the whole idea is that people in a position of authority can essentially manufacture a belief set that others subscribe to. We see it right now politically. And that's exactly what he was on about way back when. Sure. Is just saying, this is the problem, manufacture of consent. And he goes even further to talk about the concision of television. So, and he posited this, and I think totally correctly. If you look at something like a Jimmy Fallon or any late night talk show host, and they get someone on that has some serious weight, that isn't an entertainer or a musician or some type of personality, but is like a politician or a Nobel-winning scientist or an economist of some sort, anything that's like that, and you try to, and they'll volley a very complex question, and then they'll be kind of just starting to get into the framing of the answer, and they'll be like, all right, and next up on our list, we've got, Kid Rock is going to be playing.
Where they just tuned out.
Yeah. Well, the concision of television is if you can't express an idea in 30 seconds or less, you're fucked. Right. You're not going to be able to do it. And that's the big thing that I think a lot of people have to prepare for. And that's why something like a Donald Trump, has a tremendous effect, because he just goes stupid, loser. He does that whole thing. And even though it's completely bonkers, and I'm not just railing on Donald Trump, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, just using this as an example. But I mean, that is like, that type of language, it can be effective, but it doesn't address the complexity of the issue.
Yeah, he's a very succinct, oral, threatening person in that way.
Yeah, there's something about
he's very succinct.
Yeah.
Basically, quick. You're stupid.
Right. And then you realize that what he really reveals is the opposite.
Yeah.
He really, but
it's like looking at a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, but that's the thing. So when we get into like how we manufacture the consent, that idea of being in a position of authority like Rolling Stone, and you're coming out and you're saying, look, Abbey Road is worth more on our list than Revolver or Sgt. Pepper. I don't know why we're talking to the Beatles. We could do this with a lot of other people that were repeat rankings, Prince, John Cougar, Nirvana was
Saw
on
with
there.
Metallica.
Metallica.
Yeah.
Okay, case in point, favorite Metallica album?
Master of Puppets.
Same.
Yeah.
No question for me. That's objective. I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? Like, see, that's where the fallacy comes in, right?
Exactly.
Right. But I mean, do I love the other records? Yes, except Death Magnetic. But
Too loud.
Too loud. But we love all the other records, but that one's my favorite one.
Yeah. But what did they say was the best?
Kill 'Em All.
Kill 'Em All.
Yeah.
Which is a thrash record. It's not even Metallica in their Metallica-ness.
Yeah, it's almost like proto Metallica.
Right. What a funny conversation for that. So, like rapid fire. Let's go at it. Top five rock records for you.
Rock records?
I'm just gonna give it to you and tell you.
Okay, rock records. Woo. Okay. I don't know if I can list them probably in order but I can say top five.
Okay.
Okay.
No particular order.
No particular order in this case.
That is pretty challenging.
That's hard.
Yeah.
And the question is, what's the psychology by why that's a hard decision? Because now we're having to evaluate all these other factors. Okay, but if you just
because we're doing it by our method and our metric, right? Our personal metric.
We're at war with ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like okay. So Master of Puppets for sure.
Top five. Okay.
Except Balls to the Wall.
Okay.
Love that album. Such a great record. First Black Sabbath record.
Okay.
Right. It's hard for me to say anything negative about that. After that, rock records. Ooh, man. So many are flashing across my mind right now.
Oh, you only got one more, I think, right?
No, it was three.
Okay, yeah.
Gosh, let me think about that. That's sad.
Oh, no, it's rapid fire, Brian.
I know. Well, there's There's no rapid. I didn't get the automatic switch. I didn't get the fully automatic rifle. Okay, well, it's punk though, but I would say Sex Pistols.
It's a rock record.
Right.
Never mind the bollocks.
Never mind the bollocks, man. There's only one. There's only one Sex Pistols record. Everything else is a collection of bullshit. And God, man, what would be a 5? I don't know. I can't think of a 5 at the moment. There's so many. I'm just flashing through my head. And I think I'm missing one because it's my last one.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you're missing probably 100 records that you love.
Oh, my God, yes.
And that's the whole thing, too. It's like making a top 5 is hard because for me, it's like I'd have to make a top 300 because there's albums that I love for different reasons, but the same amount.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe 5 might be Avia Musicom from Eric Johnson.
Okay. Is that Cliffs of Dover? You'd have to educate me.
Cliffs of Dover is on that one, yes. Cliffs of Dover.
One of the most notable guitar songs.
Yeah, Cliffs of Dover is on. That's the one he won the Grammy for.
Yeah.
Yeah, best rock instrumental. Yeah, but
Got
he won
it.
on that record. Tones is a great record, but yeah, that would be it. See, I couldn't go.
No
into,
Beatles?
Oh no, there's a lot of others, but I mean, like I couldn't do XTC. I couldn't do because that to me that's not those aren't rock records.
Okay.
I'm thinking of like heavy guitar. You know, so that's why I'm picking those guys. You know, there's just like, oh, this is.
So what qualifies rock, man?
Yeah, for me, it's loud guitars.
Loud guitar.
Loud guitars.
See, Pink Floyd is a rock band.
No, I don't think.
What is Pink Floyd? A psych band?
This is.
Are we going to get into genre bending?
We are going to bend some genres. I look at that as like classic music to me. I mean, classic rock. It's stadium rock. It's, you know what I mean? And I love Pink Floyd.
You wouldn't call them progressive rock?
Oh yeah, you could, especially back then. They were very progressive.
So progressive psych classic rock?
Ooh, I like everything you just said. Yes, please, I'll have that.
The extended genre?
I'll have what he's having.
But so that's an extended genre, I guess we would call it. But
yeah.
But the original genre is I got to call them a rock band, right?
Okay, I mean, yeah.
They're as rock band as Led Zeppelin is to me.
See, there's another one that I could have put on the list.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, absolutely.
And that's more of like
Beck.
Tolkien rock.
Right. Or
like J.R.R. Tolkien rock.
Right. Or like Beck. You know, if you look at Truth or if you look at Wired or whatever, like that's rock, but is it, you know?
But also Wilco, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It's like rock is
social distortion.
Huge,
you know, you get, Social D on there. I mean, yeah, or Death Cab for Cutie.
Yeah.
You know, those are rock records. Are they rock records? I don't know what rock is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, what are we talking about? And it's the same as the chart. It's all subjective. It's all what the individual thinks about it.
Yeah.
So
okay, but what about you? Top
5 rock records?
Yeah. Can't say Steely Dan. That's not rock. That's not rock.
Well, Steely Dan's not rock.
It's yacht rock. Exactly.
The Wall from Pink Floyd.
Oh, great record.
I have so many reasons for that being my number one. Not only is Pink Floyd my favorite band, and there's a toss-up. Dark Side of the Moon is such a huge record for me too. But there's something about the entire production of The Wall where it's not just the record in succession, and it's a giant loop, and it starts at the end, ends at the beginning. And there's so many different styles of rock music within it. There's interesting bass. It's just a really different record. And in the same vein, the Black Parade from My Chemical Romance is definitely in my top 5 rock records of all time. Unbelievably huge. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of their version of The Wall. Right. So that might be why I'm attracted to it so much.
Right.
Frames by Ocean Size.
Okay.
British band. Mike Venart played with all kinds of different, most recently.
Yeah, you got to turn me on these
Empire
guys.
State Bastard. Yeah. And he was in his own band called Venart. Just absolutely incredible. Let's see. Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to deny just because I love it.
I did too.
And that's just what I learned playing guitar, listening to.
Oh, okay, was that 5?
No, that's 4.
Okay.
I'll go punk with you.
Okay.
And I'll say Stranger Than Fiction by Bad Religion.
Okay.
Like, these are albums that I can recite back and forth. And, just most important. Yeah.
Right. Now, see, because if we were going to widen out if I widened out my definition of what rock is, and I was going to say, what are some of my favorite rock albums in that sense, a wider one? I mean, I would think, Asia from Steely Dan, but I would also put on, which would be a weird one, which would be Spirit of Eden from Talk Talk.
What an incredible, right? I never heard it until you turned me onto it a few weeks ago. And that's like my most listened to record in the last few weeks.
I think that album is as important as Sgt. Pepper's was to the culture of the Beatles back in the day.
That's a big statement.
It is, but I'll fall on that sword. That album is so amazing to me. But XTC's Oranges and Lemons, None Such, and Skylarking, like those three. So now we get into like, is that rock?
Right.
I don't know. There's a part of my brain that's like, no, when I think of rock, I'm just thinking of like loud, these go to 11 moments.
Yeah.
And I want to hear a loud ass guitar. And that tone is, the key. I mean, we could have gone into the ZZ Top catalog, for Christ's sake,
Or the Queen catalog.
Oh, yes. See what I mean? Like, what are we doing?
What is this best of? What is this best?
Right.
Don't give me a best list that's got Lauryn Hill at number 10. That's not the list that I want to read. That's not the one that speaks to me.
Well, you know what?
And maybe that's what it is. You got to find your list. You got to find your collective audience. You got to find your authority bias somewhere.
That's it. You find your tribe.
Yeah.
You find the tribe that you dig, because some people will be like, hey, Slayer, Rain and Blood. That's my jam. South of Heaven,
Seasons in the Abyss is more of my jam. But,
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or Pantera, Cowboys from Hell, or whatever. You know what I mean? So there's all of these cool things. I mean, we didn't even get into Ozzy. We didn't even get into like Diary of a Madman. Anyway. So, but the thing is, so what I thought was interesting, and I came across this earlier in the week, which was BBC's Classical Music Magazine. Now I read this magazine from time to time because I love classical music, and I'm always interested to see, either what symphony or what conductor's coming out with a new program. And I'm really always interested in when they're going to be recording living composers.
Okay.
Right? Instead of the dead Germans, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So Schubert, Schumann, and then they get into Strauss. I could go on and on.
The greatest of all time, as you would
say?
It's
definitely part of the Viennese schools, like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, the first, second, and third Viennese schools. Anyway, but then they had this ranking, which was the top 25 American bands of all time.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Classical composers ranking American rock bands.
Okay, now my buttons were pushed. I was like, oh, this is good. Yeah. Because not only am I interested to see what the Brits think of us, our cousins from across the pond, but also how it gives me insight into how American music has infiltrated them. Because you just named a British band as your favorite band. My favorite band is also a British band from Swindon. And that's XTC.
Yeah.
So it's like we got Pink Floyd, and then they're ranking ours.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. So, okay. So let's...
What did that ranking look like? It was like AC/DC.
No. Well, let's do it. Let's name it.
Oh, who do we think they are?
No, I want to name the list. Let's name the list.
So British classical composers rank the American rock band,
or just the editorial staff of the classical music magazine.
Okay. So classical fanatics, in a way.
Yeah, ranking American rock bands.
Okay.
Now, to me,
let me formulate my list. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's.
This is all guess, by the way, for me. I don't know.
We're gonna read. I'm gonna read the list. Okay. We're gonna start at 25 and work our way up. You ready? 25, The Cars. Then ZZ Top, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Pearl Jam. At 21, Kiss. At 20, Steely Dan. Then we have Blondie, Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Ramones at 17, Fleetwood Mac, which is interesting because it says in parentheses, the U.S.-based era considered. How polite. And then we have Lynyrd Skynyrd at 15.
I like how they just wanted to make Fleetwood Mac American.
Yeah.
Like there's just like 100%.
Right.
Anyway, let's go a little star at the end of that one.
Right. It's a big asterisk.
Yeah.
Lynyrd Skynyrd at 15, Allman Brothers at 14, Talking Heads, Birds, The Doors at 11, CCR at 10, Van Halen at 9, The Grateful Dead at 8, R.E.M. at 7, Metallica 6, Nirvana 5, Aerosmith at 4, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Now, Bruce Springsteen, that's a short period in his career, right? He's just Bruce Springsteen.
He still tours with Max Weinberg.
He still has the E Street Band in some iteration, but it's not the band. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so okay, whatever. That's at 3. The Eagles at number 2. Who do you think number 1 would be? What's our version of the Beatles?
Yeah, the Beach Boys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. But the big difference is that you didn't have 3 amazing writers, because I'm putting Harrison in with that. Lennon and McCartney and Harrison, right? Brian Wilson shouldered all of it for the Beach Boys,
Sure.
right? He did everything. He was the writer.
Yeah. So very California heavy list.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
extraordinarily,
Yeah.
especially the top.
Yeah.
You know, you got the Eagles, the Beach Boys, Nirvana. Well, I guess that's Northwest. You got Metallica, the Dead,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Creedence. I mean, that's all California,
Almost. I mean, the Eagles are from Denton, from North Texas.
right?
But then they
formed in California.
Correct. You're
Playing
so-
for Linda Ronstadt,
this,
right?
Yeah. This shan't be mentioned.
Yeah, Chevy. Okay. Oh, okay. They're
Okay.
from Texas.
They're from no, I'm not even going there. There's no flag waving on that. But okay, so that's interesting to me because then you kind of go, all right, well, what kind of confirmation bias goes with this? Because now you have this classical music magazine going, here's the 25 greatest American bands. Now they did say in the article, they're like, we put a lot of time into the top 5.
In the top 5. So they had their top 5, but they needed to rearrange them
Yeah.
over and over again.
But there's some questionable things like I can't imagine Kiss being higher up on the list than Tom Petty.
Agreed.
Right? And that doesn't make sense as an American, and I love Kiss. Kiss was my favorite band when I was a kid. I still have all my Kiss albums and Kiss cards and, the whole thing.
Lunchboxes and T-shirts and
Oh,
face paint
yes.
and all.
Yeah.
Franchise Kiss.
Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what do you, how do you feel about that list?
I think it's a good list. And I can't think of any. The problem with the list is that it feels dated. It feels like this was written 20 years ago. Because a lot of the bands that are on the list they were around 20 years plus ago.
Yeah.
Right. So now you have other bands that could be, considered to be on the list. So I would say that it's cool and it's a good framework, but I'd love for them to just add in the bands that are newer and playing now that could be just as great, selling a lot of records, selling a lot of tours.
Well, but it is a classical music magazine, so they place a very high premium on
So
historical.
the classical rock then.
Exactly,
Let's call it that.
exactly. Well, but I mean, like if you look at the list, the big win for me is Aerosmith.
Right.
At number 4. I mean, Van Halen was number 9. Like there's, so Aerosmith seems unduly high up the list for me. But maybe maybe they translated more culturally in England, in the UK.
Yeah, because they were our Rolling Stones, really.
But right?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's sort of like, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's weird because when you were named your favorite artist or your favorite band, and I named mine, they're both British.
They are.
Pink Floyd and XTC.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, come on. So now, here, I just think it's fun.
But now we
have
need to get
the diversity.
American classical publication to rank all of the English bands.
Yeah. Right.
And see how that comes
That's right.
out.
Let's see where the Yardbirds
Pretty much
land.
I know where all of that's going to land.
Right.
The Beatles will be number 1, Pink Floyd will be number 2, and Led Zeppelin will be number 3.
Yeah, but then
And
you
the
got
Rolling Stones will be 4.
and then you got Cream and the Yardbirds and Beck, even though Beck wasn't really a band, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
But he was in those other iterations for sure. Yeah.
Beck's from England? You're talking about Jeff Beck.
I'm talking about Jeff Beck.
Okay. I thought you meant like Beck.
No. I'm sorry. I thought the scope of the conversation was totally
Yeah.
clear. But
Well,
yes, to be sure, you are correct. I meant Jeff Beck.
Yeah, Jeff Beck.
Yes, I totally did.
So when you start getting into England, I mean, you start talking about The Cure, right?
Yeah.
And
Another one?
Radiohead.
Sex Pistols.
Radiohead could be in the top 5.
Coldplay.
Coldplay.
I mean, there's another big one, more modern, but, cool.
Yeah. Tons.
Yeah. Oasis.
Oasis.
Dude.
Blur.
You want to talk about, but I mean, Oasis, I mean, look at the Les Paul, right?
Can't believe it. Carter's Guitars has
Which is a
Noel
shop here
Gallagher,
in Nashville.
a shop here in Nashville that everybody should know. And if you don't, go to their website. Not a sponsor.
Yet.
But they have one of the Noel Gallagher guitars that were released at the Gibson shop in London at the garage. They released 25 of them or something like that. They were selling for $20,000. And Carter's has one listed for $75,000. Just a testament, like you're saying, to the immense success that Oasis has had.
Or is that a tariff? Is that a tariff tax?
Is that a tariff tax, right?
I mean, yeah. So I think the net is if we were trying to put a pin in this episode and just go, okay, is it possible? Are lists valuable? I think they're valuable, but in a way to open up dialogue, not as a an authoritative stamp of like, this is the way it is.
Well, you said something earlier that resonated with me is just, and we talk about this in different industry and things, but find your tribe. Find the authoritative bias that you want to be a part of. You know, if you think that Rolling Stone has a total alignment with your values and the way that you consume, you should go to Rolling Stone and see what their top albums are, because you might not have heard of them before, and you get to learn new music. And for me, charts, all of that stuff, just, I love data, but I like finding new music.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things in the world is like, you've turned me on to so much new music in the last few months. And that's one of my favorite things in the world. So I look to all the publications and be like, I never heard of that before. Maybe I do like, maybe my authoritative bias more aligns with a business that I've never heard of that's putting out this greatest list of all time. But honestly, when it comes to it, I just don't think you can accurately say who the greatest of all time is.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, you know. So
we'll put out our own list. Let's see if our authoritative bias for you
That's right.
are the same. We'll put it in the show notes and see what you guys think.
And we'll open ourselves up for critical attack.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's put a bow in it. We'll talk next week. Earworm out.
See ya.
Top 10 list, hit or miss. I don't know, so I've got to listen to Earworm. Stuck in my mind. Can't get it out this time.